you got to listen to this episode if you want to get out of this pattern of things going well for a couple of days, maybe a couple of weeks, before you just get pulled right back into your old ways of being. In this episode, we're talking about why you self-sabotage when things are going well, and most importantly, how to stop it. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Live Unrestricted podcast, a show where you'll learn how to heal your relationship with food and your body so that you can focus your time and energy on more important things like your personal growth. I'm your host, Sabrina Magna, food freedom coach, and my mission is to help make your life happier and healthier without stress, overwhelm, or guilt about food. If you love the show, please do go out and share it. And if you're looking for support with your relationship with food, details about my programs are in the show notes. Thanks for spending time with me today. Now let's jump in. Good morning or good night or good afternoon, whenever you're listening. Welcome back to the Live Unrestricted podcast. I'm so glad that you are here. This is a really important episode, and it's been coming up a lot in the questions that I've been getting. And this is something that you need to grasp. You need to understand if you want to be able to shift into a new reality with food where you're not thinking about food 24/7. You're not feeling guilty. You're not feeling anxious. You're not repeating the same patterns and losing control. And I don't think this gets talked about enough. And this is the idea of waiting for the shoe to drop. So have you ever been in one of these situations where things are going really well? Maybe you're so used to things being chaotic or difficult or challenging. Maybe it had been in relationships, like you had a really rough history with relationships and they were never healthy. And then you get in a healthy relationship and you're like, this doesn't feel right, or this can't last. Like it's only a matter of time before something goes wrong. Or maybe it's the same with a job. Like things feel like they are going too well. And there's this bracing that happens in your body. You feel like you can't actually relax into the good and be present with it and embrace it as your new normal. So this is part of the process of change, like deep nervous system level, subconscious level change that is required for you to heal your relationship with food, right? Because your relationship with food is not just what you eat. And if you listen to this podcast at this point, you understand that. It is the emotions that you've attached to food, the guilt, the shame, the using food as a way to cope and not feel certain emotions or to feel certain emotions like joy and comfort. It's the subconscious beliefs that you've attached to eating and to yourself when it comes to food. I can't control myself around food. I'm a failure. I'm broken. And then there's, of course, your behaviors around food. And so all of those things that are so deep rooted within our identity becomes part of what we are, who we are, what we know. Like, I want you to think about the last 5 years or 10 years or 20 years, like however long you have been struggling with food. Like, take a second right now and just think about it and come up with a number in your mind. Okay, I hope you've done that at this point. Now, it probably has not been 2 weeks. Let's be real. It's probably been a big chunk of your life. And so for a lot of you, it becomes your new normal. Even though you hate it, even though it makes you miserable, it becomes your new normal. It's all that you know. And then the challenge is that you want to change. You want things to be different. You want food to be easy. You want to stop binge eating. You want to change on a deep level. And if you don't understand what we're about to talk about in this episode, and you don't know what to anticipate that's going to come up in your journey to healing, then it is very, very likely that you will experience what most people call self-sabotage. Now, self-sabotage is not actually self-sabotage. Like, you cannot sabotage yourself because everything just comes from a place of protection and survival. And so if there's one thing that I already want you to write down, or I want you to remember, is that there is no such thing as self-sabotage. Everything comes from a place of self-preservation. And hopefully that can alleviate some of the shame and the criticism that we put on ourselves when we are doing well, or we have this goal and we're moving towards it. And then it's like something happens and then you get pulled right back into your old patterns. And then you go into like, what's wrong with me? I don't want this bad enough. My motivation isn't there. That's not what's happening. And we're going to talk about what is actually happening, because I have had 2 questions from Food Freedom Academy members in the past month around this topic. And one of them, the most recent one, was one of our members who was saying, I am feeling really good overall. She joined, I think, like less than a month ago. She's been coming to the call. She's been making so much progress in less than a month. And this is someone who's been struggling with food for years and years and years. And so she submitted a question and said, I have been doing so good, and I keep noticing that I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. I am braced for failure because it's what has happened before. Is it normal to feel this way? Oh my goodness. What a good question. And my hope for you is that if you're listening to this podcast, if you're doing this work, you're going to have this experience where you're noticing that things are changing. You're noticing that your patterns are changing, that your habits are changing, that you're feeling less guilt, less anxiety, that you're able to eat the foods that you love without losing control, that you're not thinking about food as much. Like, that is the goal, right? And then there's going to be that point that you're going to get to. And this happens to all of us. I have experienced this over and over and over again, and I still experience it every day because I'm constantly working on changing how I think and how I feel, and expanding and growing and going after bigger things. And what will happen is this feeling of, it can't be this good, and I'm going to fall off the wagon soon. Notice how you are predicting the future based on the past. Now, this is a very adaptive mechanism that human beings have, because ultimately, you will always try to use information from your past to try to be prepared for what will happen in the future. Now, the problem when you don't understand that this is happening is that you unconsciously recreate your past. If you think about it, if you are placing all of your attention and all of your energy on past patterns, because your attention is where your energy goes. And if your attention is on the past, then you are currently putting all of your energy into your past in the present moment. I hope that makes sense, right? So you are just focusing all of your attention and all of your energy on, well, I've done that diet before and I've tried this before, and this is what would happen in my past. And you will hear this all of the time. Like, the more you pay attention to it, you will notice that people justify their behaviors, their decisions, who they are, what their challenges are, what their problems are. And I do it too. Like, I'm right there with you, and I'm always paying attention to how much energy and how much attention I am putting on the past. Because what happens is, the more you siphon your attention and your energy on your past, well, you are now predicting your future based off of your past. And if your past was filled with problems and a relationship with food that you didn't want, then you are going to put that into your future, which is why you probably have noticed this pattern where you do well and then something happens and then you get pulled right back into your past patterns. And this happens below your level of awareness. No one is walking around being like, oh yeah, I think I'm going to recreate my past today. Like no one's doing that. And that's why I think it is so important to have these conversations and to realize what's happening, because your body, well, let me back up for a second, because one of the pieces of the question that I got from my client was, is it normal to feel this way? The answer is yes. It is so normal to feel this way. And I'm going to explain to you why. You have been in this role. If we use the analogy of actors, okay, you have been playing this role for however many years that you uncovered at the beginning of this episode. You have been thinking the same thoughts, feeling the same emotions, and repeating the same behaviors for that long. Because science shows us that 90 to 95% of the thoughts that you have today will be the same as the thoughts that you have tomorrow. Sit with that for a second. We're going to be conservative and we're just going to say 90%. 90% of the thoughts that you have today are going to be the same as the ones that you have tomorrow, and so on and so forth. And so imagine you do that for years and years and years. Those thoughts get hardwired in your brain, right? If you imagine your brain as having all of these super highways going everywhere, if you repeat the same thought patterns over and over again, whatever fires together, wires together. And so you are wiring this thought pattern into your brain. It is now hardware in your brain. And so it is really easy for you to drive on that superhighway. It doesn't require any hard work. It is just your autopilot way of thinking. You don't have to think, you just do it. And so this becomes hardwired in your brain to repeat the same thoughts about yourself, about food. My body is disgusting. I'm a failure. I'm broken. Food is bad. Like all of these beliefs that you are trying to rewire, hopefully by listening to this episode, they have been hardwired in your brain. And when you have those thoughts, there's something wrong with me. That creates an emotion. It creates shame, guilt, embarrassment, pressure, criticism. And so you have these thoughts that you've repeated. All of those thoughts have created these emotions that you've repeated. And then from those thoughts and those emotions, you take certain actions, certain behaviors. You start to have that cookie. Oh my God, I've ruined my day. The all or nothing thought pattern kicks in because you repeated it enough times. Now you go into fear or you go into the F it mentality. The same cocktail of emotions get triggered. And then one cookie leads to a binge. Then what new thought pattern gets triggered? I'll start again tomorrow. And you begin to repeat this role over and over and over again unconsciously. So you have played this role as an actor for so long. And then you decide, I'm going to change. Things are going to be different. And oftentimes, what I have seen, at least, I've seen it in my clients, and I've also seen it in myself. We don't truly decide to change until there is this big emotional reaction for you. And what I mean by that is, unfortunately, I wish it wasn't this way. Unfortunately, most humans only decide to change when things get really bad, when you're in crisis, when there's a diagnosis, when you go get blood work, when you lose someone, when things are just so painful that you cannot go on anymore as you were doing it before. Does it have to be this way? Do you have to wait until crisis in order to make a change? No, of course not. But oftentimes that is what happens. So you make this decision. You say, I'm going to do things differently. Now, it's going to require a lot of energy for you to become someone new, because that's what you're doing. Really, like you've played this role for years and years, and now you're saying, well, I need to become someone who thinks differently around food and around myself and around my body. I need to become someone who has different emotions around food. I did an episode a couple of months ago. Man, I really wish that I remembered the podcast title, but I want to say it was one of the very first ones of 2026. And I gave you an exercise where I had a few of my clients actually take notes while listening to the podcast, which I absolutely loved. I gave you an exercise to do, which is to bring awareness to the thoughts that you have around food, the emotions that you have, and the actions that you take on a regular basis. And like we said before, a lot of those emotions are guilt and stress and overwhelm and frustration. You've repeated those emotions so many times that now they are trapped in your body. Your body has been conditioned to feel these emotions without being triggered by anything. So you wake up in the morning and immediately you start thinking about things to feel stressed about, things to feel guilty about, things to feel overwhelmed about. It's like your body is back online and it's like, these are the emotions that we feel on a daily basis. So when you make the decision that I'm going to change, because you should know this at this point, nothing changes until you change. Nothing changes until you change the way that you think, the way that you feel, and the decisions that you make. So you make the decision that I'm going to change, like my client so beautifully did a month ago. And then you start, if you have support and you're doing this in a group environment like we have inside of Food Freedom Academy, it really helps you to apply the right things that you need to be doing in order to create change and experience change and really feel like you're making progress. And so you're making progress and you're noticing that you're thinking less extreme around food. You have healthier thoughts and you feel more in control and you feel more normal and you're not feeling those familiar emotions of guilt and shame and stress and anxiety. These things that you have repeated for so many years, you're not feeling them anymore. And it's going to feel good for a bit, but then you're going to have those moments where you're going to notice yourself bracing for failure. This can't last. This is not who I am. That's something that will come up. Oh my God, this is not who I am. Because you've practiced that old role for so many years. This is not who I am. Things can't be this easy. And you wait for the other shoe to drop. And if in that moment, you don't know how to handle those feelings and you don't know how to keep moving forward, then it's only a matter of time before your old self, your old role, pulls you back into the past. Because what's happening in that moment is that you are stepping out of these emotions and these thoughts that you have become so accustomed to. And that does not feel safe. Because remember, for the body, anything that is unpredictable, anything that is unfamiliar is deemed as dangerous. because it's a survival mechanism. And that is, I hope I've repeated this so many times on the podcast because it's so important to understand that just because something feels scary and something feels it's perceived as a threat, of course, there are some things that are legitimately scary and a threat. What I'm talking about, though, is those things that you know intellectually would change your life for the better. Your body has a very different response to it. Your body feels fear. It feels like a contraction. It moves away from it because you can't predict it. It feels unfamiliar. And the way that I like to describe it is like when you start changing, it feels like you've been on this safe ledge of a cliff, for example. You've been there, it's been safe. You know that you're okay, even if you're miserable, even if it's affecting the quality of your life, it feels safe and you know that you can predict it. And then you start changing. And it's like you're stepping out into the complete unknown. And it is so new to you. It doesn't feel like you because you are becoming someone new. You are paving new pathways in your brain. You're thinking differently. You're feeling differently. You're acting differently. And you're going to have that old identity that's going to freak out and say, no, this is not safe. This is not who you are. So you're going to feel drawn to those old emotions of guilt and anxiety and stress, or those old behaviors of binging or restricting or over-exercising, all of these things that you perceived as having kept you safe. Well, now your body's like, we don't have those things anymore. So let me try to bring you back. And that's why you're going to have those thoughts. It's only a matter of time before I fail. It's only a matter of time before I binge or I fall back into my old patterns. And that, when you start noticing that, is where you have to recalibrate and you have to separate yourself from who you used to be. One thing that I find really helpful, because I'm in a very, very deep period of change right now, very fast evolution. And sometimes your body is taking some time to keep up and to evolve with you. And so what I find to be very helpful is when I'm journaling or when I'm even talking with Luke or with my friends about what I'm experiencing, I will refer to the problems that I used to have or the emotions that I used to have or the thoughts that I used to have as my past self. So that creates this distance between who I am becoming and how I used to be. So whenever, let's say you're changing and you're starting to feel this like, oh my God, this is not normal. I haven't felt anxiety around food in 3 weeks. What is happening? This can't be real. This is too easy. It's in that moment that it's so important not to believe that thought that it's only a matter of time before it gets worse. It's only a matter of time before I fail. And instead, you want to recalibrate and normalize it. I am just not used to things feeling this good. Because that's what it is, right? You're not used to feeling calm. You're not used to things being easy. You're not used to being able to relax into the present moment without thinking about food constantly. You're just not used to it. And it's new to you. And so being able to recognize, okay, you know what? This is my new self. This is who I am becoming. And like Bambi, who is learning how to walk, it's a little clumsy at first. And over time, the more you repeat it, you're going to show your body that actually it is safe. This new way of living, this new way of being, it is safe. It's actually much, much safer than this old role that you were playing. And so in those moments, it is so important, number one, not to believe what is happening inside of your mind, that this is just temporary. It's so important not to live in the past and to put your attention there and say it's only a matter of time before I recreate my past, because there is a world where your past stays in the past. Hear me on this. Crazy idea. But it is possible for your past to stay in the past, like to lock it up, put it in a box, and all you do is you extract the wisdom, the lessons that you learned from the past, but the trauma and the emotions and the attachments, you leave that behind and it does not come with you. And that is something that I am constantly working on myself, is that was the old self. That is not who I am anymore. And notice anytime that you identify with your old self, or even with your present self that you no longer want to create. This is just who I am. I posted a reel on Instagram a couple of weeks ago talking about how the most dangerous lie, the most dangerous words that you can use, this is just who I am, especially when it's negative. I'm all or nothing. This is just who I am. I'm a failure. I don't stick to anything. I'm always pushing things off to tomorrow. I'm a procrastinator. This is just who I am. I can't change. You are now identifying as someone who is all of those things. And so what do you think is going to happen if that is the role that you are choosing to keep playing? Well, tomorrow, you're going to repeat those same patterns. Tomorrow, you will be all or nothing. And the day after that, guess what? You're going to be all or nothing again. And I know that there might be some of you right now who are like, but Sabrina, I have so much evidence. I have so much evidence that it's true, that I am lazy, or that I am a perfectionist, or that I am all these things. And I'm going to push back on you because you have evidence of that. You notice it because you're looking for it. You will find what you seek. If you have this belief in your mind that I'm all or nothing, you will only notice these situations in your life where you do act all or nothing. And then all of those situations where you don't act all or nothing, they will go right above your head. So when you are constantly looking for evidence to reaffirm what you are, who you are, how you believe that you are, you will find it. So to wrap this up, and I hope that you are starting to see that most of the things I share with you on the podcast, of course, they apply to your relationship with food and your body. But this applies to anything that you want to change in your life. Because any big change, like for me, I apply a lot of the things that I share with you to my business growth because I'm constantly thinking bigger and I'm constantly looking to evolve. And so these are things that you need to know in order to just keep growing and just keep changing. And if you're anything like me, you know that life is about growth. Like, I am not here to stay the same. That's just me. Like, I love learning. I love being able to see myself change. I love being able to look back to a year ago and be like, whoa, I used to be triggered by this and I'm not anymore. Or I don't have an emotional reaction to this. Or I can navigate this with so much more grace. Like it feels so good to me. And I have to assume that if you're listening to this podcast, that's what you're about too. And so whenever you start making progress and you are noticing that you're actually thinking differently and you're actually feeling differently. And you almost are starting not to recognize yourself because you're like, this is not who I am. Who I am is the person I've been for the past X amount of years. It's in that moment that it is so important. Listen to me clearly. It is so important that you implement what we talked about in this episode, that you recognize that just because you're feeling like the other shoe is about to drop, just because you're bracing for failure, it does not mean that it's because it's coming. It's because you are living in the past. It's because you are not used to this. It is new. It is unfamiliar. It is unpredictable. And just because it's unfamiliar, it doesn't mean it's wrong. Actually, I hope you're starting to see that being in the unfamiliar, being in the unknown, being in the unpredictable is where you want to be. Because if you're in the known, you are in the past. You are in what you've already repeated. And if you're trying to change, that's not where you want to be. And so noticing to reframe that this is bad or this means something's about to go wrong and just saying, this is actually good. I'm not used to this. This is the new me. This was the old self over here in the past, and this is the new me. And recalibrating and showing your body that it's safe, showing your body that it's good, showing your body that you can keep going, that you can keep giving yourself evidence that you can maintain this. And that, my friend, is how you get rid of this pattern of perceived self-sabotage. And you keep making exponential progress when things are going well, without reverting back to your past self. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that this was valuable. If you found any kind of value in this, send it to someone in your life, because the truth is, everyone out here is trying to change. No matter like where you're at, if you're not struggling with food, your body, you're trying to change something. And this can be applied to any area of your life. So send it to someone that you love who could benefit. Follow me on social media at Sabrina Manuel Health. Send me a DM. Let me know that you're a podcast follower. I answer my DMs. I am in there. I love hearing from you. I love hearing what was your biggest takeaway from the episodes. So come hang out with me on Instagram. I love you so, so much, and I will see you on the next episode. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you found it valuable, I would love if you would share it with someone you know that could benefit. If you're loving the show, don't forget to subscribe over on Apple Podcasts so you don't miss a single episode. I really love hearing feedback from you, so please leave a rating and review over on Apple to help us get in the ears of more people who need it the most. Finally, come hang out with me on Instagram at Sabrina Manuel Health for more educational content and get up close and personal with me. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you on the next episode.